Atlanta, the home of the last Great Society Metro, and the only Great Society Metro that hasn't done anything in decades. People rightfully complain about San Francisco or DC having overpriced expansions to nowhere and making too many concessions to NIMBYs. But Atlanta, that's a different beast. A heavy rail branch line for one station, BRT with no signal priority, setting a launch date for new rolling stock and just not doing it for months afterwards, and somehow finding a way not to build an LRT on an alignment that's already built for LRT, already funded by the taxpayers, with a maintenance facility and downtown loop already up and running. All of this is honestly fine. In the broad scope of American transit, this is par for the course. Not to mention many of these issues, especially with the East Side Beltline, are caused by factors outside of MARTA's control, but what drags MARTA and most of Atlanta down is lack of ambition. The follow-through being poor is totally understandable for an American transit agency, but where is our mega project? Where is our Silver Line? Where is our San Jose expansion? Where is our 2nd Avenue subway? Point being, there isn't enough ambition with current plans. But is that not just Atlanta being realistic? The core issue is that building new infrastructure nowadays is impossibly expensive. Bureaucracy, NIMBYs, public-private partnerships, supply chain issues, building cheap, fast, and with a good quality outcome in North America is impossible. Wait, hold on. I'm looking at this chart. What's at the bottom of this cost list? The Montreal REM is an automated light metro built by CDPQ Infra, a branch company of one of Canada's largest pension funds, who built a whole network with a mix of existing infrastructure, highway medians, and rapidly built elevated and ground level alignments. This let REM get built for a cost incredibly low compared to almost every other transit project in modern North American history. So naturally, cities across the US and Canada want to replicate this success. A new metro system laid on top of an existing one to serve an entirely new role? But how would that look in Atlanta? That's the goal of today's video. This video is a collaboration with my friend Quanti. She wanted to enter Caleb's Build a REM contest and built an entire system in Blender and made maps. But then she read the rules and realized that it had to be a video. That's when she contacted me, and I saw what she had done, and I liked it, so I agreed to help. I even helped her build one of the lines. But anyways, I just want to say that most of the Blender stuff and maps are her work, not mine, so just credit where credit's due. But anyways, back to the video. For Atlanta's REM to be a REM, it would have to meet a certain criteria. It must be an automated light metro with short and frequent trains. There must be no grade crossings. This should be obvious, but the bar is in the bin for transit in the southeast. It must have a branch line and interlining segments. It must have different branding from the existing network, and it must have a line that is absolutely vital to the network, but goes through a very NIMBY part of the metro area that would inevitably reject it, even if it makes life objectively better. So, we proudly present a network that meets all these requirements. This is the Peachtree Airline, specifically a map of the network 10 years after its first revenue run. So let's talk about this map broadly before we discuss the specifics. If you know the REM by heart, then this map may look a bit odd. A loop line, only one branch, and 2 separate main lines. Request stops. And if you know about MARTA, you may also ask why it interlines with MARTA for a large portion of the route. And when you look at the geographical map, you will then notice the biggest difference with the REM, because of the stop spacing. Why are these downtown stations so close when the Montreal's REM is comparatively large? The answer to all these is that MARTA and the Montreal Metro are extremely different systems. MARTA acts like Atlanta's regional rail, with large stop spacing, trying to get suburbanites to the city center fast, rather than allowing convenient trips inside the city center. The Montreal Metro is quite the opposite. its stations are close together and allow the more urban areas of the city to connect to one another without branching out into the suburbs very much. So, even though this may not look like a REM at a distance, it serves the same fundamental function, serving journeys that the existing infrastructure does not account for. Now, for the actual map itself. This draft of the Peachtree Airline contains 3 or 4 lines, depending on how you count them, stopping at 59 stations across 3 counties. Going in order of length, we start with the orange line. The orange line starts at Brookwood Valley, along with the pink and teal lines. Staying to the east at Peachtree Junction, it then goes on to the Midtown Airline segment between SCAD, Studio District, and Midtown, parallel to MARTA's red and gold lines, which we will break down in the Loop Line segment. Before branching off the loop and onto its own elevated right-of-way, it descends to ground level for a station at Piedmont Park before re-elevating for a stop at the Beltline. It then passes through residential neighborhoods, who have request stops for the time being until sufficient TOD develops around these stations. It then has one of the longest station gaps in the network before it comes through the forest into the Emory Link segment, with 3 stations on campus before the line ends at Emory South. The line's purpose is essentially to connect Emory University and its surrounding area to the core of Atlanta, allowing students and faculty more options on housing, activities, and obviously transport, while also encouraging all new high-demand developments near the city center via transit-oriented development with the stations in rather underutilized land. Next is the Loop Line, or the pink and teal lines. These lines typically terminate at Brookwood Valley. However, half of the Loop Line trains skip the Brookwood segment and continue in a loop directly from SCAD Studio District to Atlantic Station. These trains would have a loop head sign instead of a Brookwood Valley one, so passengers can tell the difference. This would mostly be so that people can get from the east side loop to the west side loop without having to transfer at Peachtree Junction. Since we haven't touched on the west side of Atlanta, we'll start the tour on that side. The pink line starts the loop, and the teal line ends the loop on the Atlantic Station Airline, stopping at Atlantic Station, Lochheiden, because it's near IKEA, and 14th Street. The line then continues on the Georgia Tech High Line, with stops at 10th Street, Fresh Drive, and Park Exchange, before an interchange with the Purple Line at Bobby Dodd Stadium, ending the Georgia Tech portion at the request stop of Pine Street. We then enter downtown on the SEC Skyway alignment, with a stop at Olympic Park Aquarium, an interchange with the MARTA green and blue lines at SEC District, and a stop just south of the new Centennial Yards development at Castleberry Steel. Now it's on to the south elevated section, with stops at Mechanicsville Crossing, Center Park, and Capitol Gateway, with request stops at Whitehall Street and Mechanicsville. Shortly after Capitol Gateway Station, the line goes underground for the downtown segment, starting with an interchange with the blue and green lines on MARTA at Georgia State. Then, the line stops at Library, Hurt Park, which is a connection to the streetcar, Peachtree East, which is a distant connection to Peachtree Center, and a stop at Freedom Parkway. It then rises to just under street level and re-elevates on a viaduct over the downtown connector, stopping at Federal Plaza, and then interchanging with the Purple Line a second time, as well as the red and gold lines of MARTA at North Avenue, Bank of America Plaza, arguably the central station of this entire network. It then continues north to 3rd Street, 9th Street, Midtown, where it joins the Orange Line and exchanges with the red and gold lines once more, another stop at Tower Park, an additional red and gold line interchange at Art Center, Peachtree 17th Street, and then the pink line ends its loop, and the teal line begins its loop at SCAD Studio District. And finally, the longest line, and the one that we mentioned earlier about being vital, but also goes through a very NIMBY community. The Purple Line. It starts out above ground at the Jimmy Carter Center before going underground underneath Ponce de Leon, or as locals call it, Ponce, all the way to North Avenue, with stations at Ponce City Market, Boulevard, North 4th Ward, and obviously North Avenue, Bank of America Plaza. where it intersects the Pink Line heading north and the Teal Line heading south, as well as having the only time this line intersects with an existing MARTA station connecting to the Red and Gold lines. Crossing under the downtown connector onto the Howell Mill subway section, it intersects with the Pink southbound and Teal northbound at Georgia Tech Bobby Dodd Stadium, turning north and stopping at Northside Drive, West Midtown, until Howell Station. Howell Station is only 1 block away from F1 Arcade, making it the best station on the network, perfect for all your racing-themed corpo slop needs, and is the only place where college fat bros, Instagram influencers, and absolute nerds unite to suck at racing games in front of their friends. Not sponsored, I just love F1 Arcade. I can't believe I was forced to say that. It then crosses underneath the freight railroads and descends back up to an elevated alignment with a stop at Blandtown. Yes, that is a real name of a neighborhood in Atlanta. Then it has a request stop at Carroll Drive, and then stops at Morse Mills. After crossing over the Chattahoochee River and into Cobb County, it stops at Chattahoochee Industrial. It then descends onto Freight Railroad right-of-way and runs at ground level, raising any crossings into bridges, with request stops at Vinings Park and Cumberland Parkway before it rises elevated again for the Vinings Station, descending to ground level again before interchanging at Cumberland Exchange, which is a major interchange point for many Cobb Link bus routes. Finally ending with an elevated track that ends the line at Truist Park at the Battery, which would also be the only station outside of the perimeter. Oh, and also, the Cobb Galleria gets its own request stop, but realistically, it'd be used maybe 100 times a year, so if budget gets cut, this is the first on the chopping block. So, how would the system actually work? For the trains, this network would actually use 2 similar but different train sets. One for the Loop and Orange Line, and one for the Purple Line. This is because the Purple Line, due to its long length, longer stop spacing, and serving a very high demand corridor without good current service, needs longer trains, and therefore built longer stations. The Pink, Teal, and Orange lines would use the fictional Alstom Metropolis ATL 100 series, a very similar model to the Alstom Metropolis Saint-Laurent series that the Montreal REM uses. I totally butchered that pronunciation. The Atlanta 100s are fully autonomous, draw power from overhead, and come in 2 car sets that can be doubled with 15-meter long cars and 30-meter long sets, each set seating 54 passengers with a max capacity of around 300 or 600 when doubled. The Purple Line would use a modified version, being the Alstom Metropolis ATL 110 series. These sets' only major difference is that they have a middle car in each set, with 15-meter long end cars and one 13-meter long middle car, giving 44-meter long sets that can be doubled. Each set seats 74 and holds roughly 420 passengers, or 840 when doubled. Now for the most important aspect, schedules. To be a REM, these services have to be extremely frequent. Both loop lines, along with the Orange Line, will have a rough frequency of around 4 minutes at peak times, 8 minutes off-peak, and every 15 minutes at night. The Purple Line would run every 3 minutes at peak, 7 minutes off-peak, and every 15 minutes at night. All lines will have 21-hour days with 3 hours off for maintenance and upkeep. The entire system will run from roughly 4:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. First and last train times will vary by station. So, how would this be funded? There are many ways this can be funded and built, not just standard ones, but more imaginative ones as well. The first obvious way this could be built is taxpayer funding, but if that were the most viable way, then MARTA would expand much more than it has. The main reason this isn't the best idea is that Georgia is banned by the state constitution from using gas tax money to fund rail projects. However, the REM showed that there are more options possible in North America. The REM was backed by CDPQ, a massive pension fund looking for a long-term investment. If only there were giant banks that invest in Atlanta, especially if they had giant buildings at major stations on the network that are literally named after them. It's like some kind of sponsorship. I'm of course talking about Truist and Bank of America. They could take on this project as a long-term investment and an opportunity for transit-oriented development to skyrocket land values. Not to mention, private backing typically means rapid development and more care for outcomes, usually at the expense of the customer though. But if this fare integrates with MARTA, that should not be an issue. There's also the opportunity to have colleges fund this or private developers. The list of what could be done to make this is extensive, and Quanti writing this and me reading this and editing this are tired. In conclusion, would this network work? Probably, if there is proper transit-oriented development, but is this plan optimal? Absolutely not. There are many things that can and should change, but this is an idea done by two transit nerds on the internet, and you can by all means take this idea and run with it. We just want Atlanta to be better connected, and if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments, in a respectful manner, of course. Huge thanks to Quanti for coming up with the idea for this, and basically doing all the 3D Blender modeling and the alignments. She did all the alignments. I helped a little bit with the purple line, but that's about it. But yeah, I'm just here making this into a video, so just want to say, like, all the credit goes to Quanti for this project. And of course, Caleb from Classy Whale for hosting the Build a REM contest in the first place. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.